All right, good afternoon. We've now been joined by Martin Truex Jr., driver of the number 78 Auto Owners Insurance Toyota. And we will now take questions for Martin. If you have one, please raise your hand and state your name and affiliation. And we'll start with Jacob.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport. I'll start with the obvious. How wild was that, Martin? Over here.
Where you at?
Over here.
Oh, there you are. It wasn't that bad actually. We only made 3 laps. Cars in one piece. We knocked 0 fenders off. We destroyed 0 splitters, and it was pretty uneventful. And so that was good. But there's definitely a lot of chance for it to get crazy. The hard part is there's just you're on a road course. We're on a hard tire, and you want to push. Typically road courses, you're always pushing for that last inch or 2 or, a foot in the braking zones. And now, if you get that extra foot and it's too much, you're going to be off the track somewhere. So kind of trying to weigh the risk versus reward as the laps go by. And so far, so good for us. Not so great for some others.
How much risk are you going to have to take in qualifying this afternoon, knowing that track position is going to be so crucial?
We'll definitely step it up for sure. In practice, I was hoping to make a second run. We only ran on 1 set of tires our first 2 runs, and we got out there with a minute to go and ran out of time. So I was a little disappointed that I couldn't get out there and try to, push a little harder and find some more time. Qualifying, I think that it's going to get a lot faster, just because the guys are going to take more of each curb and each corner and push the limits. So we'll see how we can do with that.
All right, Bob.
Bob Pockers, ESPN. Do you expect to knock a fender off or hit something at some point on Sunday?
No. I expect not to. My team expects me not to, I'll say that. It's doable. I think I feel okay about the track. Like I said, it's different than when we tested because of the tires, and also, a lot of the mental cues are different. Because they painted everything and the walls are in different spots, and so everything just looks different. So just trying to find those, those markers in my head. I obviously I only made 3 laps, so I'm far from getting it figured out, but I feel like we can go out there and race and have a good time and see what we come up with.
All right, Kenny. Microphone to Kenny, please.
Kenny Bruce with KennyBruce.net. Martin, what are your feelings about uncontrolled tire penalties?
I completely agree with Cole's tweet from last week. How's that? I feel like if they stay in the box, what's the big deal? I think our fans want to see, hard racing. They want to see the guys that are, up front battling, not going to the rear once every 2 or 3 weeks for a tire sitting there with a guy that's a foot too far away from it. So I don't agree with it. I think we should look at it, but, I don't make the rules.
All right, Matt.
Matt Weaver, Auto Week. 2 kind of off-the-wall questions for you. I think you'll appreciate at least one of these. This is the 50th anniversary of Hot Wheels. Do you have any memories of Hot Wheels growing up? Did you have a favorite car, anything like that?
I had a lot of them. I don't know if I had a favorite, but, as a kid that loved racing, I had all kinds of, Hot Wheels cars and things like that, so for sure.
The other one is this is the 25th anniversary of the NASCAR Racing Papyrus PC game. And I was talking to Ryan a couple of weeks ago about this, and he said at one point he logged on as you and dumped
crashed
a bunch
the whole
of people.
field.
Yeah, and you got on and was like, "What the heck?" Memories of that and doing that with your brother.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I remember the first time that came out. It was so revolutionary, for us guys that like to race, and I was already, I believe, racing go-karts at the time. So for me. Wanting to be a driver and all that, I mean, it was like super realistic. It was really cool to be able to play that game. So spent a lot of time on there for sure. But yeah, it was a few years later actually, that my brother did that because he was quite a bit younger than me. So took a while actually before I even knew he did it, and it wasn't very nice of him. I don't get that mad. Yeah, he was young and dumb. I just was like, yeah, whatever.
Jerry Jordan, Kicking the Tires.net Performance Racing Network. During the test, you had limited comments about the track. You've opened up more about the Roval now. Is that by choice that you have to accept it now, or have you come to embrace the Roval as it will be in the race?
I'd say it's probably half and half. Knowing that we have to race here, positive mental attitude certainly helps as a driver to be successful, I think. Having the right approach. But also, the track has changed a lot since the first time we came here. The tires have gotten better consistently, as we've went through that process. And, honestly, when the first day we came here, I was one of the guys that did the very first test. The track was completely different than it is now. And there was no curbs, there was no walls. It was like you were driving through a parking lot trying to figure out lines through cones, so it was really difficult to get a feel for things. So since, there's been so many upgrades and improvements and a lot of work done in the infield especially, and you almost feel like you're at a totally different track now. So I think part of it is that as well. Marcus and everyone here has really put a lot of effort into this, and here we are to race. So try to make the best of it and hopefully have a good weekend.
All right, Nate.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Martin, when you talk about the risk versus reward and getting that extra foot, it seemed like the exit of the backstretch chicane is where a lot of guys got in trouble. Is that the area of the track maybe where you have to measure that the most?
Surely there's a lot of risk there with that tire wall being there, and again, the track is different. So when we tested here, there was no tire wall there, and we were a whole car width to the left coming out of that chicane compared to where we are today. So, it's just trying to figure out the new walls and things and where they're at, and it obviously it affects how you can drive the car. And so, yeah, that's definitely one of the tricky spots because it's so fast, and a little slip there, because your plan is to come out of that chicane and be as close to that tire wall as you can be because that's where the speed is. So if you get in the middle of that chicane and all of a sudden the back of the car steps out a little bit, which we've seen a couple guys do today, and you got to catch it, you find your left front tire in that tire wall. So just not a lot of room for error, and you got to kind of creep up on it. I don't like the back chicane. That's not my favorite part of the track. I'll say that. My favorite part, I like the infield because it feels like road course. It's like they're actual turns. It's not part of an oval track or anything. The infield's pretty cool. It's just slick.
All right, Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Martin, I want to ask you is how, although you only have the 3 laps, how physically tough is this track on these cars? And also, tell me about the challenge of the start or restarts. Because I understand you guys will be essentially going into turn 1 in third gear, downshift to second, and then you'll still have the pack accelerating behind you. What kind of chaos could be there?
As far as the first question with how hard is the track on the cars, it's really just those blue curbs. We've seen a few guys really hit them hard there in the first practice and tear up some stuff. So you kind of got to stay off of those. You can use the blue one a little bit there on the front stretch chicane, but it's those curves that are really, really, really tough on the car because they're so tall. So they really, it's a lot of force on the tires that you hit them with. Aside from that, I'd say it's really not bad at all. The blue things are pretty tough. Restarts, really, I think that's probably where most of the questions lie is restarts and traffic. How do we navigate the place? How can we go too wide? Where can we go too wide? How's that all going to play out? So that'll be the interesting part. And turn one specifically, turn 1 and 2, the walls on both sides, really narrow, kind of a difficult spot on the racetrack. So we'll just, I don't know. I mean, I don't really know how to answer your question there. I think everybody is, anxiously, I guess, anticipating what will happen there, and hopefully we can figure out a way to make it through there.
All right, Tyler.
Hi, Martin.
Hey.
Tyler Burnett, Motor Racing Network. Dover and Kansas are 2 of your best racetracks in the next round. What do you make of the next round and some of the challenges you will face next week at Dover, one of your favorite tracks?
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. A couple good tracks for us in Talladega, so we'll see. We'll just see. Hopefully, we can do what we did the first round and have 2 really good first races, and not have to worry about it. I feel like Dover and Kansas are both places we can go and win at. Our team's been doing a really good job of being prepared and showing up to the track ready. I feel like the first 2 races of the playoffs, we were in position to win, and we're doing all the right things. So we'll just we'll keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully win a race in the next round.
All right, go ahead.
Steve Schweitzer, the Lasco Press. Martin, in your opinion, where is going to be the best place to pass on the track, and where would you have to be absolutely crazy to try and make a pass?
So my first thought is that coming out of turn 8, where you come out onto turn 1 of the oval track, I think that corner is pretty tough. It's slick, and it's really, really important to get off that corner well, because you go so far running wide open. I feel like that'll probably be the number 1 passing zone. If you can get under a guy coming out of there, they're going to have to let you go when you get to the chicane on the backstretch. There's no possible way I don't think we can go through there too wide. So I would say that coming out of 8 is probably the first spot that comes to mind. And possibly coming out of 17 onto the front stretch, start-finish line into turn 1 looks like a pretty decent spot as well, because it's really hard to get the power down out of 17 on the front straight. Guys, especially on old tires, I feel like guys will be able to make moves there.
All right.
Nowhere is impossible.
All right, we're going to come up front to Lewis and Brendan, and then we'll take our last question from Channel 9. Go ahead.
Louis Frank of Reuters. Earlier today, a couple of the drivers said to speed up communications back to their crew, they've got nicknames for turns. Do you have any nicknames yet?
I'm still trying to figure out the numbers, so nicknames may come later. I think the track named some of them. I don't see it on their map here. I'm looking at it, but I know that the turn 1 was Heartburn Turn. I don't know what the rest of them are called, but yeah.
Right. Go ahead, Brendan.
Hey, Martin. Brendan Marks, the Charlotte Observer. You mentioned how much this has changed since testing and how they've added walls and a bunch of different other things. What would you say, what is the single biggest difference on the track since testing that they've made, and why has that been such a challenging adjustment?
The chicane on the backstretch is the biggest deal. I mean, it's the fastest part of the track. It's for the speed and how narrow it is, that's the big one. It's been configured differently every time I've been on it. And, of course, here this weekend, it's a lot different. So just in my mind, that's the easiest place to screw up, because you're trying to, there's so much speed to be gained going through there, but yet we've seen what can happen if you miss it by a few inches, as those guys did today. So very risky.
Hey, Martin. Phil Orban from WSOC in Charlotte, right in front of you. How does the fact that you're already locked into the next round affect your opinion of this racetrack, and can you sympathize with the guys that are on the bubble with all the unknown?
Yeah, I mean, it really doesn't change my opinion of the track itself. It changes my outlook for the weekend, I would say, quite a bit. I wasn't nervous this week. I'm pretty carefree, feeling like it's a race that, we'd like to come in here and win. So, really nothing to really worry about. Obviously, we want to do well. We want to get some bonus points if we can. That's the name of the game right now. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be fun. It's definitely more fun than coming here. Some of those guys, I can't imagine what they're thinking right now and how nervous they are about it. But, once we all get out there, it's a race, and you got to figure it out. So, from that standpoint, looking forward to the challenge.
All right, Martin, before we let you go, have you given Sherry any tips on driving the pace car yet?
I just basically told her to just stay on the track. I heard it sounds easy, right? I don't know. I heard a pace car spun out recently. Is that true?
Possible.
This morning? So it is possible. So I just told her to stay on the track, stay off the curbs, and stay off the brakes. We'll see how it goes. It's gonna be really fun to see her do that, and hopefully we'll get the pole so I can start, on the pace lap, so I can give her a little tap, maybe a little bump, a fender rub or something. That would be really cool.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck this weekend, and we thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to continue. We now have been joined by Austin Dillon, driver of the number 3 Dow Chevrolet, and we will start by taking questions for Austin, and we'll start with Jacob.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport. You had an interesting moment at the end of that practice, and Martin was just in here and talked about how, we're starting to see what happens when you find the edge and go over the edge on this course. Talk about that backstretch chicane and kind of what the challenges have been there, and then what you experienced the lap where you clipped the tire pack.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to hit every corner before the race starts here. I've got 2 or 3 of them out, but there's a couple left. We've learned a lot in a short period of time. I've gotten more comfortable. I keep getting more comfortable out there, and that's where that confidence grows, and then you get to step over the edge, and you touch the tire barrier. That's kind of where it came to. But guys are working hard to get the car back together right now, and it's funny because there's some corners that you can make speed in, and it's probably not going to correlate to the race. So I just got to be smarter than that when I get in the race, and really take my time and be smart, because it's not even. I mean, it's not really about the race as much as survival is what I've seen right now. There's going to be someone really fast, but if somebody spins, there's like nowhere to go. I've seen a couple cars out there. 17 was spun, and my spotter couldn't see him off there, and got lucky that I didn't take him back out. But just not a whole lot of room out there to go anywhere if you have a problem. But everybody's going to fight the same thing, so just trying to make it through this. Yes, it's getting repaired right now. There's mostly just fender damage, body. She's going to have a couple patches, but she'll be ready to race.
All right, Bob.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. Are you worried about this race as a cutoff race? I mean, are you walking on eggshells the next 2 days, or is there any part of you looking forward to it?
I think I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen when we get in this thing, and I can't be upset of the reason we're here and not at the regular oval that we're usually at this time of year, where I feel really confident in. I just feel like it's another challenge along the way that it's an obstacle you got to get over and get through, and hopefully me and my guys can be smart and survive it and make it to the next round. That's the plan. So eggshells is one thing. I haven't obviously walked on eggshells the first practice. I blew through them. So maybe I'll save some for the race.
All right, Steve, the blue.
Steve Schweitzer, the Lasco Press. Austin, in your opinion, where are the best places to pass on the track?
I haven't seen a great place to pass, truthfully. A place that that's the spot. There are places, but every place there's like a momentum problem. You can outbrake people, but coming out the other side is like you're always in this like momentum section of the track. If I had a pinpoint accuracy place that I would just say, and I'd like to try and pass in turn 1, but it's pretty tight off of there. If you can get under, but I have been getting good runs to the start finish line. My car seems pretty good there, so you're gonna have to set someone up off of 8 too. But getting into the chicane, there's not gonna be 2 cars go through there ever. So you better get them before you get to the other side of that. But I don't know, the front stretch you might be okay off of turn 4 coming off the big track. into, let's see here, 15. So 15 and 8 can probably be a place. I actually have a weird feeling that because 6 is so slow and you have to hug that inside wall, that someone might like squirt that corner and just say, screw it, I'm not going to try and set it up and get to the outside of you, and then you're done for 7 and 8 because you're on the outside and they can't cut back left below you. So I have this weird feeling that 6, where it's blind, that people might just try and roll speed there, stay in a push and get to the outside of you, and it'll mess you up for the next 2 corners.
Okay, so you said the chicane on the backstretch is impossible to pass there. Is there anywhere else on the track where it would just be foolish to even try?
It'll be done Sunday. I don't know. It'll be tried.
All right, let's see. Dustin?
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. 2 questions is, one, how much of a difference do you feel you make as a driver at this track compared to if you were running on the 1.5 miles? And the second is just how hard of a hit was that on the tire barrier? I mean, you knew you were going to hit it, but was it surprising that it didn't give way, or did anything about that contact surprise you?
It was actually pretty, for me as a driver, I blew right through it. It was kind of light. I didn't feel anything through the steering wheel. It was mostly all body. When I landed on the other side, the fender was up in there, and I was like, dang it, I knew I killed the left front. So if it was the simulator, you just kind of go through it and you get to keep going. Not here. Oh yeah, sorry, that was the first part of the question, sorry. I feel like you can make a big difference as a driver here, obviously. But just as much as the driver can make a difference, if he gets to a certain point, drivability-wise, the car still has to be able to react to the driving style that you need to have here. I feel like we put a lot of time on the simulator, and we found places that you can make speed, but it needs to correlate pretty properly to what we've brought here setup-wise to be able to do that. I'm pretty tight everywhere right now, but we also, our plan going in, we changed it pretty quick. We were going to make a qualifying run. We stayed in race trim the whole time, and we had too much nose weight in the car, so I was pretty tight the whole time. So it'll be interesting to take when we'll go qualify with tape on the nose. Should get some of that turn back, and but yeah, the driver ability at a road course is pretty important, I think. But I think it's important everywhere. I think driver ability is 60 or 70% of everything. Same. I think that 60% travels to every track we go to, because in the end, he's the guy that's behind the sticks to make it happen.
Brennan?
Yeah, Austin, Brennan Marks from the Charlotte Observer. Would you say that backstretch chicane is the toughest part of the track, or is there something else that's comparable to it?
Actually, that's probably one of the more simple parts of the track. It's if you want to, it's a place where you can really screw up if you take it the proper way, because no one's going to pass you getting in there unless they just get this heck of a run off of 8. If you're smart about it, it's not a hard corner. It's just if you're trying to find lap time speed, you're going to try and get a little too much, and you do what I did. The trickiest part is probably 6, 7, and 8. Flowing that. You're downhill, you can't see, you come up the hill, you want to carry more throttle. It's so easy to push your front tires, my car, too hard, and you can push all the way out to the outside wall on the main track to 1. So being patient is very hard through 6, 7, and 8. I would say that's probably the toughest. And then some of the right-handers that we're not used to turning. I mean, the good guys that are comfortable going right, you got Allmendinger and Cindric and these guys that have 14 million more road course laps than I do. They're comfortable turning to the right, and I'm still trying to find that edge, or if we went to an oval track, I'm going to be way more comfortable turning left than they are most of the time.
Any final questions? Okay, we'll go Matt, Jacob, and Steven.
Matt Weaver, Auto Week. Has Justin told you to hit the pace car yet?
No, he has not, luckily, and hopefully I do get to the pace car, because that means I'm in the front of the pack at some point.
Well said. A question about Hot Wheels. This is the 50th anniversary of Hot Wheels. Did you ever have Hot Wheels growing up as a kid? Did you have a favorite?
Yes, I had some Hot Wheels growing up. Favorite, I wouldn't know it. There's not names for them, are there?
I have no idea.
I could describe the one. I like the one with the purple hearse-looking car with the front wheels. I always thought it was pretty cool.
Also, this is the 25th anniversary of the NASCAR racing Papyrus PC games. Is that something you ever did when you were a kid?
I did not. I think I was still on the younger side of that game. Nintendo came out with some Game Boys at that period of time when I was pretty popular. I don't think I ever got to do that game.
All right, Jacob.
Austin, your teammate, Daniel Hemrick, was fourth quickest in Cup practice and has really been impressive in adapting from the Xfinity car to the Cup car. What have you seen in him in the times you've been able to race against him this year, and what's impressed you when it comes to him?
Oh, he's a solid race car driver. You know, I said it a long time ago. We grew up racing Bandoleros and Legends cars, and always felt like he's had great ability in a race car, and kept a friendship with him since I was a kid. You know, we used to have sleepovers at my house, hang out. So he's a great kid, great guy. Excuse me. He's a grown man. He's married. Can't say kid, but he's fun to race around. He's good. He made a heck of a qualifying lap right there, and we've been working together on the simulator some. So I wish I was in the Xfinity race because you get more laps out there right now. I think it'd be an advantage if you could get an Xfinity car just to get more laps, but because we're full-time Cup, it's a little tougher. But that's it. He's doing a good job.
All right, Steven.
Steve Conley, podiumfinish.net. Austin, how is the transition from the infield portion of the road course up onto the banking, and will you see it more beneficial to stay down towards the apron lower or go straight up to the wall as you're coming out of that section?
I don't really know. I mean, it's kind of what your car will allow you to do. I think if you can be lower is always better coming out of that section, but if you're in a push, you can't really get there, so you got to momentum it somehow. Just depending on what your car will allow you to do, I think is really key.
All right, Austin. Thank you for your time. We
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
you spending some time with us this weekend.
Good afternoon and welcome. We're glad to be here today to share publicly the latest news from the Richard Childress Racing camp. First, we would be remiss if we didn't thank Marcus Smith, Greg Walter, Scott Cooper, and the entire team here at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the hospitality. As always, it's definitely going to be an interesting weekend of racing. I can just about attest to that. So to kick things off, I'd like to introduce the three gentlemen sitting to my right. First and foremost, Richard Childress, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Richard Childress Racing. And of course, the guy in the middle over there, Daniel Hemrick. And lastly, on the end, Richard Childress Racing's President, Tori Galida. Tori, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I would like to echo your thanks to everybody here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Scott, thank you for the hospitality. And thank you to all of you for being here today. We appreciate it. I am extremely happy to be able to end 6 months of speculation about where Daniel Hemrick is going to end up in 2019. So Daniel will be driving the Richard Childress Racing number 31 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 in 2019. You know, at RCR, Richard and the RCR team have had really a great record of success at bringing up young drivers through the Xfinity Series and making a number of them really successful at the Cup level. In fact, 3 of those drivers are here this weekend and competing for a Cup Series championship this year. So we're all justifiably proud of that and really proud to have Daniel as the latest member of that group. So Daniel, congratulations, and on behalf of everybody at RCR and ECR, we're really proud to have you and Kenzie remain a part of the RCR family.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. It's unbelievable to see how starting here so many years ago has led to this point, and it's going to be an honor to continue down this path over the next, hopefully, couple of years, and just to be able to give the shot. So thanks, Tori, thanks, Richard, thanks all of our staff at RCR, everyone here at Charlotte Motor Speedway for giving us the time to talk about this, and I'm just incredibly humbled and honored to know that, you know, all those nights and all those, you know, excuse me, I'm all choked up here. So it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Richard, chime in there. Go ahead. Say a few remarks if you would.
Yeah. You know, I'm really proud of this day. I know a lot of you's asked around, you know, asked me, you know, who's driving, what are you doing? You know, I've been watching Daniel since he was a young boy over here. I call him a boy back in the day. Him, Austin, and Ty were all racing Bandoleros, Legends, those cars. And I've seen then the talent that Daniel had. And to get him on, Austin and Ty both have been for years trying to get him to drive for us, and to get him on the Xfinity cars and to see his talent. And now to be able to make the largest move of his career, to put him in a Cup car. I think back at the other drivers like, Clint Boyer, Kevin Harvick, Austin Dillon, Ty. These are the drivers that I looked at their talent when they were very young and was fortunate to put them in cars and be able to go out and win races and do what they do best. And I think Daniel falls right in that line with those guys because he has all the talent it takes to win. He will be a winner. He will be racing for championships in the Cup Series in the future. So, Daniel, couldn't be prouder of you, buddy, to have you here.
Thank you. It means the world.
Y'all set? You want to finish that thought, or you?
Yeah,
good?
I think I got it together
Okay,
now.
okay.
I made eye contact with my wife back there. It got me. Yeah, I just think about, the so many people want to have this opportunity and they work their whole life for it. And I think being able to sit up here and be a testament to that and be a testament to what this sport was built off of families doing whatever they could to give their kids shots. I feel like that's no different than what this RCR family is about. I'm excited to announce that I'm a part of it and going to continue to be a part of it and do it at the top series of what you work your whole life to get to. And going through this process, everybody that's followed my career throughout the summer shootout here at CMS to super late models to modifieds to super late models, whatever it was, trying to make the most out of whatever those situations were. And I think being in this spot today is a testament to each one of those folks that gave me a shot or gave me a ride whenever, there wasn't any rides to be given or to be had. So I'm just extremely, extremely humbled and thankful, and always had faith it'd work out. Didn't know when or where I'd end up, but it's incredibly humbling to know that this is my family moving forward.
Awesome. Well, thank you, gentlemen. We'll open up the floor to questions right now. If you would, please raise your hand, and we can send a mic to you. We'll start right there with Claire, if that's all right. Yep.
Claire Beeline, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Richard, you've been around the sport for a long time, and I think back to the talent you judged in the early years and the drivers you brought on. How do you judge talent? And what do you see and what do you look for when making a decision like this over the years?
Thank you, Clara. I think you watch the drivers' talent, but then you got to watch. I look at drivers, what they have in their heart, and he has what it takes to become a winner, no different than these other guys that we've been fortunate enough to advance their careers on. And you got to have heart. You got to sacrifice. I know how much sacrifice Daniel and his family's done to get him where he is today, no different than the Harvicks and Boyers. And that's the thing about this sport. There's a lot of sacrifice, and your family has to go with you on it, and we're proud to have him part of our family.
Mark Garrow with PRN. A question for Daniel, a question for Richard. First off, Richard, you had another driver from Kannapolis that kind of worked out. Pretty good for both of you. And I was you might have answered this a little bit by what you just said. Do you see any of Dale in the way that Daniel has come up through?
Yeah, Dale Earnhardt's career wasn't. He had to work his way up. I remember him seeing him on dirt and seeing him in the late models and the things that he did. And to see Daniel, all the racing that he did over here at Charlotte and all the different tracks that he's ran, the late models, I think he's proved himself that he's well capable of being here, no different than Dale Earnhardt did in his day.
And Daniel, as you grew up in Kannapolis, how big of a deal was it to have somebody like Dale Earnhardt as the goal or as somebody to look up to?
Yeah, I always said that Dale was my childhood hero growing up, and to be able to drive by DEI on a regular basis, it was less than 5 miles from my house growing up, so it was very special to be able to see kind of what the pinnacle of the sport was and to be that close to your house, just to see his face and what he had came from the same hometown and grew an empire to what it was. And to have that stuff all come back full circle here at Richard Childress Racing and have, the guy he called his boss, to have that guy be my leader moving forward of the company I've dreamed about racing for my entire life. And unbelievable how, like I said, it's come full circle, and I'm sitting here today, and right, wrong, or indifferent from a little bit of the same backgrounds, and the fact of Richard touched on it, just having heart and having the desire and the motivation to get up every day when you get knocked down and standing back up and doing it again. And that's what this is all about.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport. Daniel, first off, congratulations. You and I sat here in this exact same room back at the very beginning of your summer shootout tenure a while back and talked about the possibility of moving up the ladder. Does it make it extra special to make this announcement here in this room today?
I haven't even thought about that, honestly. Yeah, it definitely does. I've sat up here, for many summer shootout championships and had the honor since, having that success in those days to come out here and talk to younger racers and be a part of the process of what you hope you're in a situation to do one day. And never thought that whenever this moment would come that it would just so happen to fall in my backyard here in Charlotte. So it makes it that much more special to see how many, so many familiar faces, and obviously the media and the folks that are normally covering our sport, but we get to have, all my family here, all the guys and all the crew people that have had a hand in some way, shape, or form of building my career to this point, and are able to come here and share this moment with us, and that's what's really, really cool about this, is to know that we get to do it at home.
You weren't one of the guys who came up through the ranks with a big money sponsor. You've busted your tail, worked for every opportunity you've gotten. Does that kind of a path, just pushing and pushing and having to be so extraordinarily patient, does this make all the sleepless nights worth it?
Patient is an understatement. It definitely does. Just thinking about how I've had to do it. A lot of people say, man, why'd you keep going? And honestly, I didn't know anything else to do. I knew one thing was for sure, that I wasn't ever going to reach this part of the sport that I love without keeping on trying at it. And that's what's landed me here at my feet and landed a place I can call home at RCR. And it does. I was telling stories earlier in the back. My old Super 8 mile car owner, Jake Carswell's here. And heck, I was talking about string lining the right side of a race car at 4 a.m. trying to figure out, man, somebody else come read this thing. I can't even see the tape measure. I've been up so long working on this thing. So it's cool to have the opportunity to share all that with these people.
Deb Williams, RacingToday.com. Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is for Richard, and it kind of continues in the vein with Mark Garrow started out. Number one, what does it mean to have a Kannapolis native back in your car? And number two, you've got him in the number 8 in the Cup race this weekend. Is there any thought that in order to carry on the Kannapolis tradition, most people know 8 was Dale Jr.'s number, but it also was Ralph Earnhardt's number on the short tracks, of maybe switching the 31 to the 8 next year?
We have discussed that, but we haven't finalized yet. Right now it's a 31, but that's not out of the question. When I very first wanted to run the 8, I called Dale Jr. and Kelly and told them what I was going to do, and they thought it was great. And, we've had it for 3 or 4 years here, and we just now started using it this year with Daniel, and we thought it was a perfect fit, him from Kannapolis, and putting the 8 with him. So I just think, I want to touch back on what Daniel says. People have no idea the sacrifices. When he said that about working on the right side of an old late model, I used to go to the dealerships and get beat up fenders and come and straighten them out and put them in my car, and no sleep. And that's what I like about Daniel. He's a racer. He's not somebody that's been handed or anything. He's been out there and worked for it, and he's been a racer.
Bob Pockers, ESPN. Daniel, your name came up with a lot of different rides. It seems that you did talk to a lot of people. How close did you come to leaving, and why didn't you?
I feel like all along in my heart, I knew where I wanted to be, and this was the path, and this is where I wanted to land, no matter how it shook out. There were times where, Richard will attest to this without, diving too far into our business, where I looked at him, I said, please help me not make this decision. I believe you recall that, and that's exactly what he did. He made it to where he knew this is where I wanted to be, and no matter what was being offered or thrown at me, that if it could be worked out in some way, shape, or form, that RCR was my home, and I'm incredibly fortunate to know that it worked out the way it has, and And we get to carry on what not only we're starting now, but what I've been building on for 2 years, from the personnel side to the partnerships, to all of the people and folks we're surrounded with there at RCR and ECR and Chevrolet. It's tough to even think about changing direction, whether you wanted to or not, because of how much you have invested. And I think staying true to the journey and to the path, and knowing that this is where I wanted to be all along, I'm just incredibly fortunate it worked out the way it did.
Matt Weaver with Auto Week. Daniel, for years you've always been a inspirational, motivational kind of guy. I mean, head down, fin up comes to mind. When you think back to that era, how did you will yourself to keep on going, knowing that you had people saying, you're not going to make it, you don't have funding, and here you are, Cup driver?
Probably stubbornness, probably the best way my wife would tell you. I think, throughout life, you try to be the one to, add some motivation to somebody or do something to pick them up in their situation, man. I've seen, hundreds and, just tons and tons of kids that are more than capable of doing it and succeeding at the highest levels of sport. They'll never get that shot. And as things started to transpire and I saw that, man, I may actually have a crack at this and I may get my shot. It was believing in all that stuff and applying it to myself. I think that was the biggest thing. And as I did that, it's incredible to see how things turned and led to what they are. And I think that's just believing in the words I was telling to other people. I think when it came down to it, that was the deciding factor from getting from the super late model race to this point, was believing in those words.
And what does it say that on the same day that Priest was able to announce his deal?
Did he announce it?
Yeah.
Good for him, man. I didn't even hear it yet. I've been in the Xfinity car. That's awesome.
So both of you guys, very similar backgrounds, same day. What does that mean for guys who have talent, who don't have funding to be able to get here anyway?
It just means it can be done. Everybody says, the path or whatnot of how we got here may not have been ideal, but at the end of the day, you did whatever you could with what you had. And to any racer out there that thinks it can be done, I think today is a huge step in that direction to show that it can be. And, hopefully it inspires some racers across the country to be able to continue to put one foot in front of the other and do the right things in life, to hopefully align yourself with the right situation and know you got to trust yourself in the decisions you're making. And if you do that, no matter how it shakes out, you'll lay down at night knowing you gave everything you had. And I think that's what today is all about.
And one for RC. Do you feel like that you've probably left your entire organization, left a little bit on the table as far as getting Daniel his first Xfinity win, and there's more to unleash out of him in Xfinity and Cup?
Yeah, he will get his wins, and I think we could have him here Sunday. His 8 car is really fast. He's a great road racer, and don't be surprised if we're not sitting here Sunday afternoon. Write that down. So we're going to be trying. We got 3 good cars out here, and
no pressure.
There you go. It's we could be here Sunday. That's our plan, Saturday or Sunday, because he's running in the Saturday race as well, and we got 3 cars on it. And anybody can win this Roval. I'm just proud to have Daniel driving for us next year, and he and I had a lot of conversations, and I talked to him as a friend and told him whatever, we worked through this thing to get where we are sitting here today together, and I'm just proud to be here and proud to be announcing he's going to be our driver. And I've known his family, some of his uncles and different guys, and I remember bringing up a postcard and showing it to me one day. We were hunting and said, "Hey, it's Daniel Hemrick. You better watch him." And I said, "I've been watching him."
Let's go. Look, I want to go to the press box. Do we have any questions from the press box?
Daniel, today's official announcement. You're driving in Cup, but you've known for a little bit now. What was that emotion like when you found out that you were going to drive full-time in Cup in 2019?
Well, if you haven't been able to tell through my voice, it's been pretty emotional, Chris. No, it was more, I hate to say a sigh of relief, but it's like you put everything into something and just hoping there's a turning point. And, that starts to turn over as you get your shot in trucks and Xfinity, and then you kind of plateau, because when you want to make that next step, it's a totally different demand on yourself, on your family, on everybody that's financially invested, emotionally invested. And I think just being able to go through, the last couple months and trying to figure out, what was next for me and what was going to be, the right decision for myself. It was a matter of all that stuff leading to be able to make the decision and be able to sit here today and, yeah, I'm excited, and all of it will really, really set in probably as we move forward and get through this weekend and get into the normality of regular weekdays. But it's been incredibly humbling to see the people that are reaching out. My phone will not stop as I'm sitting up here right now going off, and it's a cool feeling to know that we have so many people supporting us, supporting our organization, and look forward to having all that support behind us as we roll into 2019.
Any more from the press box?
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. This might be best for Tori or Richard. The release says further announcements on sponsors at a later date. Are you fully funded for this car? Are you still hunting for sponsorship? And when you were weighing what drivers to put in the car, how much did sponsorship factor into that decision?
Yeah, Nate, we plan to lay all that out over the next several weeks. We have Caterpillar, of course, and we're pretty confident that most of the rest of our partners that are on the 31 now will be back, and got some other partners that have supported Daniel over the last few years that we feel like will be a part of the program now. So we do have some pieces still left to put in place, and we'll lay that over the next several weeks, hopefully before the end of the season. And sponsorship always is an important factor and comes into play. You know, I've told several people that in the good old days, and you wanted to change drivers, you could make one phone call and get approval, and you'd be done. And today, you know, it takes multiple conversations, multiple levels of approval, and so it's a much more complex process than it was 20 years ago.
Any further questions? One more right here. We'll finish from the third row.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport. Daniel, Richard was talking about how impressive you've been in the Cup car, and I think it's interesting to see just how quickly in just the 2 starts you've had that you've adapted to the Cup car. What have, without giving away any trade secrets, of course, what have you found that's made you so comfortable, and what do you feel like your chances are for Sunday?
I feel like just, as far as being comfortable, I think it's just treating it as a race car. I think not diving too far into it. At the end of the day, you got to treat it that way, and no different than the way I've approached any next step in my career. And I think being able to do that and understand some of the dynamics of the race cars, and obviously having track time here in my Xfinity car yesterday led to unloading with speed in our 8 car over there with Smoky Mountain on board, and knowing that we're able to transition and just treat it like it is. I haven't even looked at data or nothing there because I don't want to mess myself up yet. So it's been a fun transition, and obviously having speed makes it that much more fun. And still a long weekend ahead for me, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm having a good time enjoying the switch back and forth.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the press for working with us. I know Bob, Clarabee, a lot of different ones have asked me, when you're going to make the announcement, you're going to tell me first, whatever. But here we are today. We've made it, and thank all the press for working with us all through this transition. Thank you.
Yeah, good way to end it. Thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you.